Hello and welcome back to Retfurb. So on today's video we've got this Cannondale M300 from 1994. So I'm going to be giving the bike a complete overhaul, so stripping it all down, going through it, repairing anything it needs repairing. There is an issue with the brakes, so I've got to look at them. Overall the bike's in a pretty good condition, I would say. It's mainly just sort of in need of a really good service. You can see that it's pretty much original. The handlebars there, they've got some corrosion on the middle section, sort of some pitting and some corrosion on the stem as well. The frame overall really good condition. The seat, as you can see, good condition. There's a little bit of a deform on the front of it, but to be honest, I'm probably going to leave it as it is because I don't really want to mess around with it and pull it off and cause any issues, and I keep it all original then. But yeah, just looking over it, the frame, the parts, it's mainly just dirty and greasy where it's sort of been stored. Obviously hasn't been used for a while, but yeah, all the bits on it are pretty much original. I think the tyres probably weren't original. I'm not 100% sure on that. It's got the original Acera X on there. The crank, I'm not exactly sure what it is, the model of it. I think it might be a Sagino or Sagino, I don't know how you pronounce that, but it's that model. The crud catcher's been put on above the frame tube. I'm not sure why that is. Normally put it underneath to protect it, so I'm not quite sure about that. It's got the original Coda bar ends on there, which I'm not going to be reusing. I'm going to reuse the original grip shift and try and use as much as I can, to be honest, on it. But yeah, as you can see, it's in need of just a real good once over. So let's get to the video. The first thing I need to do is just go through and strip all the bits off. You can see I've just taken the bottle holder off, the crud catcher has come off, and now the front wheel needs to come off. So just releasing the brake cantilevers to do that. The same with the rear. And then on to removing the bar ends. These are just Allen key bolt that holds them on. And then moving back onto the brakes, undoing them. So if my voice sounds a bit croaky, I've been getting over a cough. I'm not sure why. I've had it for a couple of weeks now and I'm sort of just getting over it. So my throat's a little bit wrecked from coughing so much. But anyway, you can see there that that's the cracked part on the cantilever. Now I'm not going to show the repair on this video, but I'll link the repair video that I did to show you how I repaired them. But you'll see just the process of me cleaning them up and everything on here, but I won't actually show the full process of repairing it. I'll just show a link to that because there's a separate video showing exactly how I did it. So now moving back to the bike, just taking the parts off the handlebars, removing the handlebar. You can see the corrosion in the middle, which is going to be repainted, so that'll all be gone. The same with the stem, it's just a little bit of corrosion on there. It just needs sanding down and repainting. And now to remove the headset and the forks. So this is a threaded type headset, so slightly different than the more modern type with the clamp on stem. This is the threaded type, and the stem goes down inside and secures that way. Now just to remove the chain, so just chain tensioner to snap the chain out. I've actually got a link to go back into that, so I won't be using that particular link that I've moved out with the chain tool. I'll be replacing and putting a quick release link in there. And now just to remove the crank. So as you can see, as I'm doing all this, the bike is in pretty good condition. As I said before, there's no sort of major issues with it that I could see. The frame overall is really good. There's a little bit of corrosion here and there from the aluminium underneath. It's sort of oxidized. Obviously where there's been chips or any paint damage, it's just caused that. But other than that, it's pretty good, to be fair. So now I'm just going to degrease the frame and just clean it all up. And any sort of bits on the frame I will be touching in after I've polished it, which I'm going to be doing next. I didn't want to go too mad with it with this one because it is in that good a condition. So now moving on to the frame, I'm just going to polish it up. I've got some Freckler polish and my little mini polisher, which is a Milwaukee mini polisher. So you'll see just how good this comes up just with a good polish. It brings the shine up really well and it brings the colour out really nice. It's a really nice metallic red, this frame. I do really like it, actually. I wouldn't mind actually maybe doing a slightly different build on a bike like this at some point, or a Cannondale with this colour. It is a really nice metallic colour. And now just going over the forks and just giving them a quick buff up as well. And now let's get onto the front derailleur and just give that a good clean up and just give it another grease and oil. You can see it's just all sort of dirty, quite a bit of sort of grease that's in there which the dirt's stuck to. You know, obviously this ideally would need to be serviced periodically and just made sure that any sort of dirt and grime and stuff is removed. You don't really want to be using it like this, it just wears it a lot quicker. Any of the mechanism and joints, if you get all dirt and grease in there, not so much the grease but the dirt mixed with the grease, it will obviously wear it a lot quicker. So we're just going to go over it and give it a good clean up and a good service. So I'm just going over it with the toothbrush and the degreaser, which is just a solvent-based degreaser, the same as I always use, which, you know, is a similar sort of thing that's used in vehicle body repair centres. And then just going over the cloth and trying to get out any of the bits that I've left behind. Obviously it's not going to look immaculately clean and perfect, but it will look a hell of a lot better. It will tidy it up and it will make it work exactly how it should. I'm not exactly sure what front derailleur it is. I think it might be an SRX, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So now I'm just going over a bit of metal polish and just polishing up the chrome, just bringing a bit more of a sheen to it. And as you can see, it's come out really well. And now just putting a little bit of wet lube in around the joints, and that'll help it move a lot better. And the same goes for rear derailleur. That's obviously really greasy, as you can see. So I'm just going to go through, clean up all the little bits again with a toothbrush and some solvent-based degreaser. Just stripping it all down, making sure I can get all of the little bits. Now with this rear derailleur, I'm going to do a video on its own, so you'll just see a shortened down version here, but I will be doing a full video of that on a separate video. So now it's all been cleaned, we can now start putting it all back together. This is the hardest part that I'm doing at the moment, getting this spring part back over. But once you've done it, it's, you know, it's not too bad. Once you've done a couple of times on different derailleurs, it's the same sort of process. It's just obviously a bit of resistance with that spring. The final bit just going in there for the cable adjuster, and then we can look at re-greasing and lubing up the joints again with a wet lube, and then I'm going to put a bit of grease into the spring. You can see how well that's just come out just with a good clean, a good service. It's surprising just how good it can be, you know, just giving it a good clean up. And now onto the brake cantilevers. So you can see the bit that's broken there. So like I say, I'll link the video which I did recently, which shows how I repaired those bits. It seems silly just to chuck away brakes when they're perfectly working. You know, obviously you wouldn't want to go extreme mountain biking with these sort of brakes. It's an old system that's, you know, nowhere near as good as, even V brakes are 100 times better than these brakes, you know, and no comparison to disc brakes. But it's worth just keeping them going, you know, if you're using it for general riding, commuting, anything like that, they're ideal. You know, it's a shame just to chuck them out just for that. Now moving on to the headset, we're going to remove all the grease and dirt and then re-grease them and put them back together. Nice and simple one, this. So all I do is just pop the bearings out carefully and then go around with some solvent-based degreaser, clean it all up the cage, pop them back in, and then we can look at putting some new grease in there. And just doing the same to the top bearing. Now moving on to the crank. So again with this one, just giving it a good clean up. I've actually got some Scotch-Brite here, which I'm going over the aluminium crank arms. So they'll sort of semi-polish it, semi-sort of clean it. You know, when I say polish, there is an abrasive pad, but it'll bring up a little bit of a sheen to it and just give it more of a uniform look over the top. And then I'm just going to remove the chain rings and then again give them a really good clean up. It's just, you know, they look a lot worse than what they are. You know, you look at this, you think, oh my god, it looks disgusting. But it's just with a good clean and degrease, they come up really well. Now the pedals are not ideal, but I'm going to be reusing them. They seem to be, you know, feeling okay. Don't seem to be any issues with the bearings, so I'm going to reuse them. And now on to the wheels. Again, these look a lot worse than what they are, but with a real good degrease, going around, getting rid of all this grease around the rims, you can just see straight away how good they're coming out. Now, you know, it's a little bit of effort required to do it and a little bit of time, but in my opinion, it's, you know, well worth it. You bring back a bike which looks, you know, just dirty and grubby and looks like it's probably like the end of the life, but, you know, it comes up pretty well. And now I'm just truing the wheel. Now, I have no idea what I'm doing with my mouth here. I was just looking at it, my tongue's all over the place, so I'm obviously concentrating hard. But yeah, these wheels weren't that bad, to be fair. They weren't that out of sort of true. They were just ever so slight adjustments. They were really good, to be honest. This is the front one I'm doing now, and then I'm just moving on to doing the rear one. Again, that tongue's all over the place, so I don't know what I'm doing there. But yeah, nice and easy on this. They're really good, to be honest. And now onto the rear cassette and the sort of guard that goes around the spokes. That part looked really grubby, but actually comes out really good. I wasn't thinking it was going to come out as good as that, but it did, as you can see. And again, the cassette's in really good condition. That one just needs a good clean, no sort of wear on it. You know, I think the whole bike hasn't had a hell of a lot of hard use, and it's obviously been reasonably well looked after. Obviously, just needs a really good service, clean, and sort of go over like I'm showing here. And now just fitting that guard on and the rear cassette, nice and simple. You obviously need a special tool to put this back on to do the bolt up in the middle, or the securing sort of bolt on the outside, as you can see I just did then. So now it's time to fit the bike back up. So the first thing I'm going to do is put the forks back on. So this is nice and simple, just using the threaded headset to hold that in place. And then just starting to put the small parts in it, the cable holder for the front brake cantilevers, and then the front wheel back on. So I've used the original tyres for this because they're pretty good, to be fair. Still got quite a lot of tread and they've got a bit of life in them. So now just getting ready to put the bottom bracket in, a bit of copper grease just to make it easier, so when it's got to come out, or if it's got to come out again, then it's a lot easier to get it in and out. And just securing that in place with a special tool for the bottom bracket. And now the crank to put that back in place. Simple, just to put it on the square taper and then bolt that back on. And then the quick release for the seat tube. And now the rear derailleur, to put that back on, just bolt that in place. Obviously all the adjustments got to be done when the cable goes in. And then the rear wheel can go back on, just bolt that in place. And now the stem to go back in, so just trying to get that sort of semi-located in the right place. I will final adjust that at the end, and then the same with the handlebars, but you can see how much different they look now with a fresh coat of paint on the stem and the handlebars. And then starting to put all the pieces back on the handlebars here. Now I've cut down some small grips because the grips that were on there for the grip shift weren't that good. So I've just cut some normal grips down and put them on there, which they've done the job. And now feeding all the cables through and just making sure that it's got adjustment on the rear derailleur. And then the front brakes to go back on. So obviously these have been repaired with the plastic bits all been repaired, which I'll put a link in the description, as I said before. These are a little bit fiddly to adjust, just to get them lined up correctly with the brake pads. And now just making sure that the derailleur is shifting okay. And just doing a little bit of adjustment on there because it wasn't quite shifting right. And now to take it out for a test ride. Out on the Cannondale just after the refurb. Bike rides really well. No sort of major issues. The front derailleur is not shifting down on the lowest cog that well, but that's just a bit of adjustment. So I'll sort that out when I get back. Only a real short one. I'm just getting over having a bit of a cough or cold. I don't know what it is, COVID or something, I'm not sure, but yeah, I don't want to be pushing myself too much. Just thought I'd come out and get a bit of footage and just check it's all okay. Not usually used to using grip shifts, so I find that a bit weird. Although the rear derailleur is shifting fine, no issues up and down. It's just the front is a little bit weird, and what I'm used to with like normal undershifters like Shimano type or even the surround type, you sort of click one to one, whereas on the grip shift, especially the front derailleur, it doesn't do that. It's like small increments, which to be fair is quite good when it's not quite going in gear properly, because you can just sort of lick it on a little bit more. But I quite like it when you just, you know, you shift to go into a specific gear and it goes into it. Yeah, everything's pretty good on it. It's not exactly the lightest of bikes to ride because it's obviously all steel, but the seat's nice and spongy, so that soaks up all the rear end. Yeah, it's a good little bike, I really like it. Nice basic bike. Very rigid like the other Cannondale, but like I say, the seat on this one's a lot softer, whereas the other one's had a harder seat, and I think that's what it's suffered from. So yeah, anyone thinking about getting an M300, I definitely recommend it.
As you can see, the bike's come out really well. I'm really happy with it. I think that I achieved everything that I wanted to with it. I think the grips are the only thing I actually replaced on it. I don't think anything other than that was new. So all the rest of it was serviced, refurbished, re-greased, cleaned. As you can see, it's come out really well. Thanks for taking the time to watch the video. It's really appreciated. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.